You're listening to the Fort Erie Podcast, your local source for upcoming events, hot new listings, and bite-sized interviews with business and community leaders. Here's your host, Brent Jones.
Good morning, Fort Erie. You are listening to Season 4, Episode 2 of the Fort Erie Podcast. It is Tuesday, September 21st, 2021. I'm your host, Brent Jones, and my guest for today's episode will be Shane Therrien of Big Pappi's in Crystal Beach. Quick reminder, today, of course, this is a brand new episode, and each brand new episode this fall, I'm giving away a new $50 gift certificate to Lucky Strikes. So to win today's gift certificate, how do you do that? Very, very simple. In the description below this episode, you'll find a link to the show notes. Click that link. It'll take you over to the show notes page on my website for today's episode. Scroll down the page about 2/3 of the way. You'll find a space to leave a comment where it says to leave a comment, and you can comment on anything. What you loved about today's episode, maybe a question, a follow-up question that you'd have for Shane. Maybe you got a joke. It doesn't really matter. Leave a comment, get social with me. I'll choose my favorite comment for today's episode, and that person will win $50 to redeem at Lucky Strikes and go bowling. All right, let's talk about what's making news here in Fort Erie. So this first story relates to a family in Crystal Beach. Some of you may have already seen this flying around Facebook, but there is a 50-50 raffle and a GoFundMe set up for this family to help them purchase a wheelchair-accessible van for their son. So very, very noble cause. I encourage you to check out the links in the show notes below today's episode for the news stories I'm going to talk about, but also, of course, how to get involved and potentially even make a donation of any size to help this family out. The other story I wanted to touch on today relates to Safari Niagara in Stevensville. There is a drive-through dinosaur experience that's going to be kicking off in the middle of October. So if you've got a family that's excited about dinosaurs, highlights are going to include more than 60 animatronic and replica dinosaurs, such as the T-Rex, Triceratops, Raptors, and a bunch more. I've got a pick for hot new listing this week, my favorite new listing that just went up here over the weekend. This is listed by Ray Rosatani of Remax Niagara Realty, my team leader. And this property is located at 303 Gilmore Road in Fort Erie, listed for $425,000. This property has been completely renovated top to bottom. It's got a detached garage, which was renovated as well. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, of course, very centrally located within the town of Fort Erie. This could be a perfect starter home, or maybe even potentially for a family, a retired couple looking to downsize. If you'd like to schedule a viewing, if you'd like to have a look at this property, you can find my contact information below this episode in the show notes. You can also find a link directly to the listing. And as a quick reminder, for everyone who buys or sells residential real estate in Niagara with me this fall, you'll be going into a draw in January to win a $3,000 vacation package via selloffvacations.com. You can find a link to learn more about that contest, again, in the show notes below this episode. Just before we get to today's interview, I thought I'd do something a little different. This is usually where I find out what's on your mind, Fort Erie, and I go through some of the questions and answers in the Fort Erie Questions and Answers Facebook group. Today, I decided I would do something a little bit different by going through a different group that I've linked to in the show notes called Fort Erie Job Leads, because there's some new posts that just went up in here, different employment opportunities around town. Mark Wilkie made a post here regarding looking for independent contractors to work as custom window coverings salespersons. So if commission sales is kind of your thing, that may be worth checking out. Great Wall Chinese Restaurant is looking for a part-time server position. It appears as though they are still doing takeout only. So some of the duties may include handling cash, working with customers, answering the phone, taking orders. So that job posting went up on September 17th. I also see a post here from Jen McKinn saying that AeroSafe Processing is hiring for a chemical processor 40 hours a week. The shift is 7 until 3:30. You can walk in with a resume at 1360 Commerce Parkway to apply. I know obviously the pandemic has been difficult for both employers and employees alike. And so I thought it might be a neat kind of recurring segment to highlight job opportunities around town for those of you who may be looking for work. So I think that just about concludes what's going on around town. Now on to my interview with Shane Therrien. All right, welcome back, folks. I am sitting down here chatting with Shane Therrien of Big Pappi's in Crystal Beach. Welcome to the show, Shane. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Brent. Hi, everyone.
It's always great chatting with you. And let me start by asking you, what do you think makes Fort Erie and Crystal Beach specifically such a great place to live and work?
Just the for me anyway is the my childhood, the past. So going back to I know a lot of people speak about it, and a lot of people are probably sick of it, but the Crystal Beach Amusement Park. I grew up there. Grew up there with friends, with family, my cousins. We were there at least every weekend. So it's a big part of my childhood memory.
I think back to a couple of years ago, when my wife and I think, went to Big Pappi's for the first time, and we met you in there, and we both had this kind of weird moment where we looked at each other and we're like, that's the dude from the sign. Like, you are Big Pappi. That's you.
That's me, yes.
So where did that nickname come from? What's that all about?
You know what? That actually came from the wife and I, Miss Pappi. We would go to Cuba a couple times a year. And we've done that for years, obviously, until we got hit with the situation we're in here. But it didn't matter where we went in Cuba, what island, where we were. I would always end up with the nickname Big Pappi out there.
That's amazing.
Yes. And so, I mean, it happened. I had a vision that it was going to happen. And there was a group of big group of friends that we had met out there on one of our vacations, and we went to a place. I mean, kind of similar, I guess, but they were all going crazy about it. I own this, and we would name it Big Pappi's, and I kept saying one day, and here we are.
Well, I kind of feel sometimes like you're living the dream. I mean, you think, gourmet hot dogs, gourmet grilled cheeses. I mean, how did such a simple concept become so popular?
I took a step back. I knew I really wanted the spot. Took a step back and thought about things. And I mean, and who doesn't love hot dogs and who doesn't love grilled cheese, right? So we put them together, and here we are. But it's every week that I go in, it blows my mind like the action we're getting, the chatter we're getting, it's even bigger than I anticipated for sure. Yeah.
Oh, I bet. You go down Derby Road on the weekend, and it's like there's a circus going on. It's like people line up to get their gourmet hot dogs, And tell me about some of the most popular items on the menu. Kind of what's in them. What are the best sellers?
So if we're going to start with the Sangos, we'll start with the grilled cheese. That is our Buffalo Bad Boy. That's our number one. So that's a chicken wing dip grilled cheese. So I'm not sure if you're familiar or the audience is familiar, but most people around here are familiar with chicken wing dip. Normally you would eat it with nachos or, serve it for a football game or, if you're having a little party as an appetizer. That's one of my favorite things in the world. So I thought, why not put it on a grilled cheese?
Yeah.
And that's become our go-to kind of our Big Mac or our Whopper. That's kind of our thing. And then also with the Sangos is our Miss Piggy. So that's a pulled pork grilled cheese. That's one of our tops. And then we've got the Snob. That's a bacon apple brie with a brown sugar maple drizzle.
Wow.
So those three are our top go-tos. And then, of course, I'm not sure if you're familiar or not, but we do a feature prospect. So we'll run something new every week. Sometimes it'll be every 2 weeks. If the one we just ran and was a huge hit, we'll run it back and we'll do it for 2 weeks.
The vast majority of people who listen to this podcast are local, so they know a lot of the history of the area. But for the benefit of maybe some who don't, you talked about the Crystal Beach Amusement Park, of course, which is going back a couple of decades now. Right. But really, that's what started the craze for Loganberry in this area. It was popular at the amusement park. Can you talk a little bit about the history of Loganberry and how you've incorporated that into some of your beverages?
Well, like you said, it was a staple, right? Through the Loganberry juice and the sugar waffles, Crystal Beach sugar waffles, right? I remember them as a kid, and we'd always get one. We'd get a Loganberry juice and a sugar waffle, and again brings us back to the childhood memories. But I think it'll always be part of the area, part of Crystal Beach, Ridgeway, even the region and beyond. But I thought that was something that we had to have. The Loganberry juice. So we got the I don't offer the suckers. We don't offer the suckers. There's some other staples there as well. But I felt that the most important to offer and to keep those memories going was the loganberry juice and the sugar waffles. And we've also kind of threw a twist into that. And I know I wasn't the first. The fella years and years ago on Derby Road, the old Tropical Hut. I'm not even sure if that was the name of the place back then, but they did loganberry. I can't remember what they call it now, but we do a loganberry shake. So it's the same idea as a shake, right? So we also offer that, and that's become one of our go-to shakes as well. We've got all kinds of different world famous shakes, and that loganberry one has become one of the go-tos. We call that home sweet home.
Nice. The shakes are delicious. Now, you mentioned earlier having maybe a different kind of business model, something up your sleeve. If you were to imagine expansion in the future, do you think you'd open a second Big Pappi's location? Would you try to do something a little different? Or can you even talk about that right now?
No, I would. I definitely think about opening a second, third, fourth, fifth, who knows, Big Pappi location. I mean, I love what we're doing. I love what's happening.
I'm going to put links, of course, to everything you're up to below this episode in the show notes, links to your social media, because I know you're very active on Instagram and some of these other platforms. But just to kind of summarize things, you're a part of what I feel like is a big movement in Crystal Beach. There's a lot of development. There's a crazy number of businesses that opened during the pandemic in that area. Do you have, would you like to give a shout out or maybe some recognition to some of the other businesses around you that have either popped up or you thought really did a good job during the pandemic of persevering, of accommodating customers? Like who are the rock stars you really see making this all happen in Crystal Beach?
Wow. It's a tough question, Brent. There's been, that shows you the forward movement that Crystal Beach is in right now, to see all these businesses open in the middle of this pandemic and succeeding. And not all of them have. Some have come and gone. But I mean, I think right now the most current rock star, I think, is Shaka. They are crushing. I love what they're doing. I love their style. I love their vibe. I love everything about it. And they're kind of health-wise complete opposite of us. But I think there's a lot of similarities as well, right? The vibe, the look, the style. So, I mean, I love what they're doing. I think they're crushing. I think they'll be there for a long time.
Well, you can't eat healthy every day, Shane.
No, you can't, my man.
Well, Shane, I want to thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Thanks for having this chat.
Brent, I appreciate it, my man. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, folks, welcome back. And just to conclude today's episode, I'm going to cover 3 community events coming up this week. As a reminder, if you have or you are aware of a community event coming up, don't be shy about reaching out to me so I can talk about it and promote it on the show. You can simply visit theforteeriepodcast.com, click the contact link at the top of the page, send me a message, and I would be happy to talk about and include your event in a future episode. But here's the first event I'll talk about coming up tomorrow. That's Wednesday, September 22nd, kicking off at 1:30 p.m. at Bridgewater Country Club is the Fort Erie Blood Drive that my team is hosting. If you'd like to come out and give blood, you are certainly more than welcome to. Also happening tomorrow, Wednesday, September 22nd, there is a Fort Erie painting tutorial. This is a ticketed event. It looks like there's an admission price, $25 for adults, $15 for a child. But this is happening at Southside's Patio Bar and Grill on Niagara Boulevard. Check out the link in the show notes below on how to get registered for that. And the last event I saw that I wanted to touch on is the group Fort Erie Ukes, as in ukuleles, is jamming at the Fort Erie Golf Club on September 23rd. So details about that, again, in the show notes below this episode. All right. I think that just about concludes everything for this week. Next week, season 4, episode 3, my guest will be Ann Waters of Salvation Army right here in Fort Erie. I look forward to speaking with you then. So long and have an awesome week.
You've been listening to the Fort Erie Podcast with your host, Brent Jones, a sales representative with RE/MAX Niagara Realty Limited Brokerage. Follow @BuyWithBrent on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for updates. Subscribe to the Fort Erie Podcast on popular platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and catch a new bite-sized episode every week. Until next time.